Ready to go. You want to just go ahead and introduce yourself? I actually forgot to prepare for that. Yeah.
That's
So,
not,
and that's
that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. Good evening, everyone. I am attorney Saprina Taylor. I am a Social Security disability attorney. I've been practicing law for over 20 years. I attended North Carolina Central University undergrad, and I received my Bachelor of Arts degree in political science in 1996. And I graduated from Central's Law School in 1999 and started practicing law shortly thereafter. I started with a small firm in general practice. That attorney did give me the opportunity to start practicing Social Security disability. After working with them for probably about a year, I interned with him in the beginning, and then I worked with him as an attorney for about a year. And after that, I did enter into a partnership with another attorney. She handled real estate law, and I did more of a general practice, Social Security disability, personal injuries, criminal law, a little bit of everything, just kind of trying to figure it out. So after about 5 years in the partnership with that attorney, I decided that I was kind of ready to go on my own. And that's what I did. And in the beginning, I still kind of practiced a lot of different areas, but decided that I kind of want to focus on Social Security disability. I became interested in Social Security disability as a result of my mom actually being disabled. She became disabled at an early age in her early 40s. At that time, I probably was either a senior in high school or early in college. And just seeing her go through what she went through, just the process, a long process, and then just my family going from two incomes to one income, and my dad having to juggle all of that. It was just an interesting process. And I'm from a small town. We don't have a great deal of attorneys there, but definitely no one that practiced Social Security disability. She had to travel to another city to get representation. And I just remember that entire process. So once I went to law school, initially when I went to law school, I wanted to be a corporate attorney. But in undergrad, I took accounting, and I realized that that may not be the best fit for me. So I decided that going to law school, after law school, that I would do Social Security disability based on my mom's experience. And the interesting thing about that is in law school, they don't teach you about Social Security disability. It's not even an elective. So everything that I learned about Social Security disability, I learned that on my own through practice. I hate to say through trial and error, but through trial and error. I did take continuing legal education courses to learn as much as I can about the practice, and that's what I did. And I was fortunate to do well based on learning it on my own. And so with that, um, I enjoy the practice. It gives me the opportunity to help individuals who are in an unfortunate situation. The majority of my clients don't choose to be disabled. A lot of my clients love working. And usually the individuals that I'm working with have been working most of their adult lives, so 20, 30 years. And they don't want to be out of work, and they would choose to be in work. So it gives me an opportunity to represent them, help them get the benefits that they need. So that was a long introduction, but I wanted to give you some type of background of how I kind of got started in Social Security disability and what it is about the practice that I think is a good fit for social work. And it has a lot to do with compassion when you come to dealing with people and being able to empathize with individuals and understand that sometimes people are just um, having a hard time, and sometimes they need assistance. So with that, I feel like social work was definitely a good area to give more information about disability representation. So with that being said, I wanted to start off with sharing with you, give me a second, the title for today. It is a non-traditional career path from charity worker to disability advocate, the evolving world of social work. So I was able to find this meme that I thought was quite interesting. It lists social workers and the different things that different people, the different roles that people believe that social workers are able to perform. The first one is the person with the money in the hand giving it away, what my mom thinks I do. The second one, what voluntary clients think I do, act as their savior. What involuntary clients think I do is kind of like being in charge and giving commands. And what I think I do, being being a leader of the revolt. What society thinks I do is rescue people from refugee camps. And what I think I actually do, and that person is covered with paperwork. I feel like a lot of us feel like that is kind of what we do. Everybody thinks we do different things and perform different things. But truly, what we do is sometimes, unfortunately, it does deal with a lot of paperwork, but we're still able to help individuals in different ways. And it's great that you have some clients that are happy with the assistance that you're able to give them. Some others are not so happy. But I think at the end of the day, if we can walk away and know that we've done our job, that we should be happy with the results that we get and proud of what we do. So this evening, there are a couple of topics that I do want to cover. I do want to talk more about Social Security disability advocacy, Social Security disability programs, Social Security disability process, and more importantly, the nexus between Social Security disability and social work. A little bit about my company, the Disability Teacher. And then I want to discuss disability advocacy as a career choice. I do want to thank you all for joining me this evening, and I do want to thank Central Social Work Department for allowing me to share my knowledge this evening. Thank you, Ms. Armstrong, for inviting me to do this. And a special thank you to my friend, Saprina Bristow Wiggins, for being the catalyst for tonight's event. I really appreciate her. I told her what I was trying to do, and she said immediately, I know who I need to get you in contact with. So I appreciate you, Saprina, for doing that for me. And we will have time for questions at the end of the presentation, but please feel free, if you have questions as I'm presenting, you can raise your virtual hand or just enter your question in the chat. Ms. Armstrong is going to be checking the chat for me just to see if I have any questions. I like to actually engage with the audience and interact. So please, if you have any questions, just let me know. But the way I want to start this off is basically I want to share a scenario with you. Okay, so I want to share a scenario with you. So Denise, and please follow along if you can. I'll speak slowly. Sometimes I speak a little fast. So Denise has an office in downtown Charlotte where she has built a successful Social Security disability practice. But because of COVID-19, like many of us, she's been working from home. She's able to meet with her clients via Zoom or telephone conference for those who are not comfortable with the video technology. Denise is preparing for Social Security disability hearings she has scheduled for next week. One of her clients is a former classmate of hers from North Carolina Central University, where they both earned bachelor degrees in political science. Denise has gathered her clients' medical records, sent medical opinion forms to her clients' doctors and her clients' mental health providers for them to complete them. She has reviewed her client's case file and relevant law, then drafted and submitted her memorandum of law to the administrative law judge. About 2 weeks before the hearing, Denise schedules a time to meet with her client via Zoom or telephone to prepare her client for the hearing. As a result of the pandemic, the Social Security Administration is currently holding hearings via telephone or video. But either way, Denise is ready. She's been working with this client from the beginning of his case, and she knows it inside out. So, okay, it's the date of the hearing. The client is sworn in, the vocational expert is sworn in, and Denise provides her opening statement. She says, Your Honor, it is our contention that my client is disabled pursuant to Medical Vocational Rule 201.14. She then questions her client. What medical conditions cause you to be unable to work? When did you last work and where was it? How far can you walk without pain in your feet? How long can you sit without pain in your back? What is the heaviest weight you can lift without pain? And how well do you get along with others? Denise's questioning went on with her client for about 30 minutes or so regarding his disability and his medical conditions and why he's unable to work. After her testimony, Denise then has the opportunity to question the vocational expert. During the vocational expert's testimony, they testified that there was jobs available in the national economy for her client. So she asked, do these jobs take into account that my client may be off task 15% of the workday or absent at least twice a month for doctor's appointments and mental health counseling? After she concludes her examination of the vocational expert, she then provides her closing argument to the judge. Your Honor, based on my client's testimony, the testimony of the vocational expert, a review of the medical evidence, you must find that my client is disabled. Wow, Denise sounds like a diligent attorney, advocating for the rights of her client. But you know, that also sounds like what I do for my clients. But wait a minute, there's a difference between Denise and me. So let me see. Denise has an office downtown. So do I. Denise has a Social Security disability practice. I do as well. Denise is able to earn a living representing claimants before the Social Security Administration. So do I. She has a bachelor's degree from North Carolina Central University. I do as well, Eagle Pride. She has a law. Wait a minute. There's one thing that Denise does not have. Denise does not have a law degree. Now, I spent 3 long, grueling years to get a law degree, took contracts, failed that first exam, took constitutional law, uniform commercial code, which I still truly don't understand to this day. And honestly, I'm still paying for law school. But if Denise doesn't have a law degree, then Denise didn't sit for the bar exam. That thing lasted 2 days, and I studied for about 3 months. It was such a horrible time. So how is Denise representing clients just as I do? But she doesn't have those 2 things that I listed. Federal law allows non-lawyers to represent individuals in certain administrative areas. One of them is Social Security disability law. There's also certain areas when it comes to the Internal Revenue Service that individuals do not have to be attorneys, where they can actually represent people before the courts, as well as the Trademark and Patent Office. There are certain situations where individuals do not have to be attorneys, have law degrees, or have a law license to practice before the courts. But being an attorney who practices Social Security disability, I found that quite interesting. Of course, it's something I learned after the fact. But while in law school, I didn't know that I would be practicing Social Security disability. As I stated, it's not something that's actually taught in school. It's something that I learned after the fact. And actually, I was already in practice for about 10 years before I even knew that non-attorneys could represent claimants before the Social Security Administration. And the way that I actually learned that fact is that in 2002 or 2003, while I was still in the partnership with the other attorney, we had an intern from North Carolina Central University's Criminal Justice Department, and she was with our firm to complete her practicum hours. So she would do basic administrative work. She would answer the telephone, do client intake, and assist with other duties. Once she graduated from undergrad, I hired her to come along with me when I started my law firm and to work as my legal assistant. And so as my legal assistant, she had more responsibility. And of course, she had a bachelor's degree at that time. So she was responsible for communicating with my clients, drafting documents and filing those documents with the courts. But also, because I started to grow my Social Security disability practice more, At that time, I still didn't know that you could be a non-attorney and represent before the court. She would still communicate with my clients and handle their matters before the Social Security Administration. Anything that she could do without actually going to court. She would draft the documents. She would even draft a memorandum of law so that I could submit that and present it to the judge. So that's what she did for me. But in 2008, I relocated my law firm, and my legal assistant and I parted ways, unfortunately, because she was very good at her job. But we parted ways, and she was hired by UNC Hospitals as a Medicaid assistance coordinator. And her responsibility was to help individuals who were patients of the hospital to receive Medicaid funding. So there were other coordinators that were already in that position when she got there. So they became, of course, her co-workers and her colleagues. So what would happen is if the patient was denied Medicaid, then the coordinators would represent those patients before the Department of Health and Human Services, before a hearing officer. So some of those patients would, besides Medicaid, would need additional resources. So they would apply for Social Security disability. So what I learned was my former legal assistant, because she already had the experience from working with my law firm with Social Security disability, instead of UNC Hospitals referring those cases out to law firms, they would actually have my legal assistant, my former legal assistant, to perform those duties and actually represent those individuals before the Social Security Administration. So what happened was one day, my legal assistant, my former legal assistant, called me after one of her hearings. And at that point, I thought that she was just handling the Medicaid cases. But she called me after her hearing and she let me know that, that she had a question about something that went on at the hearing. So she kept saying that the judge told her something about an assessment. And so she wanted some information about how to handle that. And she kept saying the judge asked her. So I was a little perplexed because I know that I was thinking that you had to be an attorney to be handling these cases and that she shouldn't be appearing before a judge, but she insisted that she did. And so she went on to explain that she does represent individuals. Yes, I'm sorry, that she does represent individuals before the Social Security Administration. Was there a question?
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
so. I think it was just logging in and out, like
Okay, I'm sorry.
happens, but I think it was
Okay. And so that she does represent individuals before the Social Security Administration. So I was totally floored because I had no idea. This is something that you never heard. I had been going to continuing legal education courses for about 10 years at that time. I had been meeting with other attorneys, prior to the hearing, where we would just meet in the lobby before the hearing cases. And probably I was meeting with some disability advocates and just didn't realize it because I just didn't ask the question, just because I assumed that they all were attorneys. And so that's how I found out. But based on the experience that she did gain in my office, she was able to take that experience to UNC Hospitals, where she was doing work that UNC would usually, refer out to attorneys to handle. So in my above scenario, Denise was also a disability advocate. So that was the difference between us. It's just that I spent more money in law school and more time with the bar exam than she did. And so it's something that you don't hear a great deal about, but it's my understanding that the disability advocacy as a career path is growing. As of 2015, there was about 13% of claimants that were represented by non-attorneys before the Social Security Administration. That number has fluctuated, but it has been as low as 9%. It has been as high as 20%, but now it's down to 13%. And that just may have something to do with the changes in Social Security disability rules. But 13% for me, and 70% of disability claimants are represented by attorneys, and 17% are pro se. So let me break that down again. 13% are represented by non-attorneys, 70% are represented by attorneys, and 17% are represented pro se. So this area of law, if there's 70% attorneys that's representing individuals, it's a good area to be in, a good area of law to be in. with Social Security disability, you can earn up to $6,000 per case, no more than 25%, but it's the lesser of the two. And if you are considered a certified representative, then your payments are actually direct deposit. So honestly, I love getting my payments from the insurance company and the government, because when I open up my bank account, the direct deposit is already there. And so you have attorneys who have actually, you know, have successful disability practice. Some attorneys, that is all that they practice is Social Security disability. So you're able to make a good income out of it, if it's something that people are interested in doing. I just think a lot of people don't know of it, and some people may even be intimidated, thinking that they can't learn the process. But again, this is not a process that I was taught in law school. This is something that I learned on my own. So the attorneys that are out there representing individuals is also something that they learned on their own. Some attorneys that do it now used to work for Social Security Administration, so they may have learned the process that way. But the majority of us are learning the process through education courses, through studying, through research and different resources. I actually met a young lady, probably, well, it had to be pre-COVID, so probably earlier this year. And she works she does contract work for a firm that's in, I think she said Minnesota or Michigan, but she is in North Carolina. So she does contract work for that firm. She is an attorney, but she was telling me the pros and cons of working as a contract attorney for another firm. And one of the cons that she had was that they don't train her. So she's just going, learning the way that I did, from continuing education courses and from doing her research. So don't think that you're at a disadvantage in trying to learn this information and trying to learn the process. And also, there are a growing number of states that are actually starting legal paraprofessional programs to grant access to the judicial system. Arizona, Utah, Minnesota are both starting pilot programs that allow non-lawyers to handle legal tasks and offer legal advice and make court appearances. Now, some of these states are right now having these individuals, these non-lawyers, supervised by attorneys until they get the program kind of figured out. But I think that you're going to see more states actually going in that direction, knowing that there needs to be more access to the judicial system through the administrative process. And some people just don't have the legal means or the financial means to hire attorneys to represent them in certain situations. So the states are trying to make justice more accessible to individuals. So I think that we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more states that's heading towards allowing non-lawyers to handle different areas of law. And not only do these pilot programs allow these non-lawyers to represent just administrative matters, they're also handling family law matters. They're handling landlord-tenant issues. So I just think that this is an area that I think will continue to grow. So some of the key skills I think that you will need as a disability advocate are organization, critical thinking, being able to interpret rules, and also being able and capable of providing advice. And that's definitely things that social workers do on a daily basis, especially capable of providing the advice that's needed to the clients. The criteria used to become a disability advocate is that you need a bachelor's degree, from an accredited U.S. post-secondary institution, or a secondary high school diploma or GED certificate, but you do have to have equivalent qualifications from training or work experience. So if there's someone who has an associate's degree, but you may have worked in the field before, let's say teaching, or if you had worked in the field with nursing, like certified nursing assistant, something of that nature, but they want you to have at least 4 years of professional experience if you do not have a bachelor's degree, showing that you are familiar with medical reports and how to read medical reports, as well as being able to interpret some rules and some laws, and also being able to distinguish or be familiar with physical and mental limitations and just how they affect somebody's ability to work or capabilities or their functional capacity. So the experience can be gained in different fields. Like I said, it could be teaching, counseling, personnel management, public employment service, case management, or healthcare professionals, like the example I used with my legal assistant. She worked in the healthcare. So you may be asking, you may be saying, well, I've never seen a job posting for a disability advocate, and you may not. I think a lot of times they will put it in the form of a different type of occupation, like the Medicaid assistance coordinator. But people do hire people who have experience with the Social Security Administration, or people who may be certified as a disability advocate. You could get a job, of course, at a law firm. For attorneys, and I think this is a great idea. I've had my paralegal to come through, and she has the training. She didn't get the certification as a disability advocate. She chose to go to law school. But I could see law firms hiring someone who is a disability advocate. That frees up time for the attorney to maybe practice in other areas. But you have an employee who you pay a salary, but they're also being able to bring in additional income because they're actually able to go and sit before a judge and actually handle and dispose of your Social Security disability cases. But not only are law firms able to handle or able to hire advocates, you can also have advocacy groups, nonprofit organizations. But my favorite is to be an independent advocate, and you can start your own business and you can be an entrepreneur. So for individuals who are uncertain of, what their next career path is, which direction they want to take, you're not really sure that you want to go get your license, you're not really sure that you want to do counseling, disability advocacy is definitely a career option that you should consider. If you do want to go on your own, and let's say that you do have a license, or you could offer counseling without your license. You can't counsel or provide mental health therapy for your client and represent them as a disability advocate. However, if you have a colleague that has their own practice and they have their own clients and they're willing to refer those cases to you, then you can represent individuals. That is a way that I get some of my cases. I deal directly with a mental health facility and some of their clients who have applied for disability, and they will send those clients over to me. So I will do an assessment to see if they're actually eligible for disability or not. And we're able to work out, and it builds trust with each other. You're able to build a team and you're able to build a network. I know that they're not going to send me someone who is malingering, and they know that I'm going to make sure that I do my best to represent their clients, and to do the best that I can to be an advocate for them and get them the benefits that they need. So we've talked a lot about Social Security disability, and I really haven't gone into detail of exactly what it is. I'm sure that most people have heard about Social Security disability. I don't know if you have any experience with working with it or not, but Social Security disability is a government-run social insurance program.
Just a quick, we've got 2 questions that came through, and it's more with, it sounds like you might be shifting gears to talking about what exactly it is. And so there's a couple questions that came through. Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you are a CNA and have worked in the healthcare industry, like a nursing home, are you able to be a disability advocate?
It's based on your work experience and how many years of experience that you do have, but it does not disqualify that person from becoming a disability advocate. There is, if you want to be a certified advocate, there's an exam that you would have to take to pass that, to be certified from Social Security Administration, and also that allows you to get direct pay. And that's really the main thing, is trying to get that direct pay. You can be a representative for an individual, but then you will have to get paid from that individual. But to be able to actually represent someone, win their case, and then get your fee approved by the Social Security Administration, and then when they get back benefits, Social Security sends a direct deposit directly to you. You don't have to wait on the client to receive their funds. Once Social Security determines what their back pay is, they send that percentage, either, like I said, 25%, but no more than $6,000. So yes, as a CNA, you definitely have some of the qualifications that they look for. You're familiar with medical reports. You're familiar with medical evidence and getting medical records from doctors, or at least being able to note what is needed to provide to the medical providers. So you're familiar with that area. So I think that that's very helpful to already be a nursing assistant and try to become a disability advocate.
Okay, then the other, unless Natasha wanted to follow up on any of that. The other question is, what sources of training are available for someone who's interested in becoming a disability advocate, and where can someone go to take courses or gain certification? And that's
Well, the training available, one of the reasons I started my company is because I didn't see a lot of training out there for representatives. And I did wonder, well, how are they learning how to, do this practice? And I know, with not getting off subject, but I know with the Veterans Administration, they also allow individuals to represent veterans and not be attorneys. But they're looking at their program because they're concerned that some of those advocates don't have the training that's necessary. But one thing with Social Security Administration, they make sure that these individuals are certified, and they also get continuing legal education so that they can keep up with any updates. But my firm provides that type of training for disability advocates. I saw that there was a growing need for it. As I said, I did some researching, and I wasn't able to find a lot of companies or individuals or organizations that provided that type of training. So with my experience of 20 years of doing this, I feel like I can also add that practical side of how to actually practice Social Security disability. A lot of times we can learn the theory of it, but until you actually put something into practice, I kind of know the pitfalls. I know what to avoid, what to look for, what to ask your client, what to ask medical providers, mental health providers, those things that you're looking for. And again, you can contact my company. It is the Disability Teacher. And I do have a website, and the website is thedisabilityteacher.com. And you can reach out to me if you have any questions about that. My email address is info@thedisabilityteacher.com. If somebody wanted some more, had questions about how to get training to become a disability advocate. Any more questions? Thank you all for those questions.
I do want to follow up. And I think you answered the question. I think it would be great if the information that you're providing, if somehow you can get connected maybe to the community colleges, because that's where you see most of your CNAs. And I actually asked that question because I have a lot of cousins who are young, who are actually CNAs. And I think they would be great in being able to learn that there's another avenue to just being a CNA, that they have other options. So that's why I asked that specific question, because I don't believe that it's taught in the community colleges. So hopefully somehow you can get connected to the community colleges and provide that information.
Well, thank you, Natasha. I appreciate that. And that is my plan. And it does surprise me sometimes that I would expect maybe at the paralegal schools for those courses that they would offer Social Security disability. So I am planning to reach out to community colleges, paralegal schools as well, even at the university level, to offer Social Security disability, especially the certification, some type of program, because you will have students that will be able to graduate, get a certification, and actually have a career, be able to start a career. So that is definitely the path that I want to take with that. Any other questions?
Not right now. And I posted your website on the chat as well for folks.
Okay, thank you.
I do have another question. And yes. I forgot to put it in there. Is there a list of certified disability advocates? Like, for example, in bankruptcy, there's a list of certified bankruptcy attorneys. So is there a separate list that someone can look at for disability advocates?
I don't know of a list. I know that if you are a member of certain organizations, you would have access to that list. But as far as being able to actually go to a website and get the list, I'm not aware of it. But I would think that the Social Security Administration would have a list of advocates in their area. There's several different, most cities have their own local Social Security Administration office, but there's only 4 regional offices in the state of North Carolina, and that would be a definitely a good starting point to go to. And they are Fayetteville, Raleigh, Greensboro, and Charlotte. Those are the regional offices. So they should as well have, I know that they have a list of different organizations that can represent individuals, like legal aid, that will be listed. Certain law firms are listed. Maybe they provide pro se services, but certain law firms are listed as well. So I would say that the Social Security Administration will be a good place to start looking for that list.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I am going to go on and start talking about what Social Security disability is. If anyone has experience with Social Security disability, please put it in the chat and just let me know what experience that you do have with the program. But Social Security disability is a government-run social insurance program that provides benefits to workers that become disabled and unable to work. Now, Social Security, the entire program, also does handle retired workers as well, but we're talking about the disability program, and there are definitely different rules with disability and retirement. That's something that I get a lot of times from individuals, especially those individuals that are close to either early retirement age or full retirement age. They'll call with questions about what's the best route for them to take. But Social Security disability is government run, and it's for people who have become disabled and unable to work. To be eligible for Social Security disability benefits, a person has to be out of work for 12 months or expected to be out of work for 12 months. So what does it mean to be expected to be out of work for 12 months? Usually where I see this situation occur is that if somebody who's had a serious accident, be it they've been in a serious car accident or they've been injured seriously at work, and they may have several fractures, and right now they're out of work and may have been out of work for 4 or 5 months, but they know that that healing process may take an additional 2-3 years. So it can be expected that they're going to be out of work for that length of time, but also that you cannot be able to perform what is called substantial gainful activity. Now, substantial gainful activity basically is the amount of money that you can make. For 2020, that limit is $1,260 per month. So if you make over $1,260 per month, then you're not going to be eligible for Social Security disability. And one of the questions I get a lot from individuals, they want to know, can I work and still get Social Security disability? The answer to that is yes. However, Social Security will look at the type of work that you're doing. If you're doing work that is labor intensive, heavy lifting, standing on your feet, something that's very physical, or something that also requires a lot of mental, a lot of thinking, you're not going to be eligible for it, even if you make less than $1,260 per month. Just because they're going to look at the amount of money you make, but they're also going to consider the type of work you're doing to determine if you're disabled. So that is one of the questions that I get all the time. So I usually advise my clients it's in their best interest not to work while you're trying to get Social Security disability. Now, let me be clear about that. All of my clients that I take on, I believe that those individuals are disabled. But people are often placed in a situation where I have to feed my family. Either I have to feed my family, or I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to be homeless. So when they come to me and they ask that question, they're not trying to get over on the system. They're wondering, how in the world am I going to make ends meet? Because the Social Security Administration is telling me I have to be out of work for at least 12 months before I can even qualify for benefits. So a lot of times they're trying to figure out, how can I hold on to something, a little something, and still get disability. So I always leave that up to them, but I let them know that it's in their best interest if they can figure out a way to make it, depending on family, depending on charity organizations, depending on churches, Medicaid assistance, or any other resources, to try to use those resources, because at the end of the day, you're going to need to get those benefits from Social Security disability. So Social Security disability, also another question I get, people will ask me, is it short-term disability or long-term disability? And it's neither. Social Security disability is not short-term disability or long-term disability. Those programs are usually provided by an individual's employer. Social Security disability is not for a specific amount of time. Social Security disability is a program that is supposed to last as long as you are disabled. A lot of times, depending on the severity of somebody's medical conditions, physical or mental, it could be for the remainder of that person's life. Sometimes you do have individuals that are able to be rehabilitated and they are able to return to work and don't need to be on Social Security disability for the remainder of their life. Social Security does have a review process that they do either every 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years. And there's a difference in those years and the time of the process, because it's usually based on their age and the severity of their conditions. For instance, I had a lady who, she actually was a flight attendant, and she was a flight attendant for private jets. I thought this was so interesting. So she's a, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I have something I want to share with you before I tell this client's story. I just thought it was cute. So give me a second to share it. That's it. My clients have the best stories, but HIPAA prevents me from telling them. So of course I can't tell the client's information or anything like that. I won't be too specific. But you see, I spend a lot of time finding memes and all that kind of stuff, but I definitely want to share that with you all. But this individual, she probably, I think she was early 40s, and she was a flight attendant for a private jet company. She traveled all over the world, and she loved her job because she was able to meet entertainers, celebrities, athletes, politicians. She was able to meet so many different types of people. But what happened to her, she became ill unexpectedly. And so she had to go to the hospital, and she had an emergency surgery. And the emergency surgery did not go well. So from that, she was continuing to have additional surgeries, having to go to physical therapy, and just not able to heal. Eventually, when her body was able to physically heal, her mind, mentally, she had not healed up from that trauma. And so she was always just afraid of having that experience again, or just dealing with that trauma. So I wasn't sure about this case because, again, she's young. It's clearly just a mental health impairment. And those are just a little bit more difficult to prove, but it's just a mental health. And I don't want to say just a mental health impairment, because I don't want to make it sound like that's not important. But I know with Social Security disability, they require so much more medical evidence and so much more medical documentation to prove that somebody is disabled based on a mental impairment. So with her having that mental impairment, we went before the judge, and she explained her story and she explained her situation. And the judge did find that she was disabled. And he did say that he will review her case in 3 years, which is reasonable because this lady needed just time to heal. She needed time to heal mentally, and she needed time to heal emotionally. So she was getting the counseling that she needed. And I do believe that she will have a recovery and that she will be able to get back to the work that she's done before. But so it's just really important for them to have that review process, because not everybody wants to be or intends to be out of work for the remainder of their lifetime.
Are you seeing?
And what social?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Are you seeing the question that was just posted?
I did not. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I can quick read it off to you if that's helpful. Or
Yes, if you would. Thank you so much.
Okay, Tiffany asked, during your cases, are there times that you engage assistance from medical professionals, orthopedic surgeons, etc.?
Yes. Um, Usually, well, sometimes, most of the times my clients are already getting medical treatment, but that's not always the case. I'll have some clients that will come to me and they have medical conditions that are severe. However, they don't have the medical documentation. And that is the most important thing. You can testify before a judge and you can give your word that this hurts, this aches, I can't walk but 15 minutes without pain. You can give all that information, but if you don't have the proper imaging, if you don't have the proper opinions from those medical experts, then it's likely that the judge is going to find that you're not disabled. It's important to have that information. So for individuals sometimes who do not have health insurance, what I'll do is try to find clinics that offer free treatment, either through the clinic or their doctors who offer up their professional skills and their time, and that they will see a certain number of individuals who may not have the proper health insurance that they need. But I rely on medical professionals all the time. They are the ones that help me prove that my clients are disabled. It is my responsibility to get that information from those professionals, review it and interpret it, and then explain to the judge how that may meet a Social Security listing. And I think I'll talk about the listings later on in my presentation. But it's extremely important to have that information and have actually those working relationships with the medical providers. Unfortunately, you will run into some medical professionals who do not want to supply the information that is needed for their client or for their patient. And it may be just that the doctor's busy, and I definitely understand that. So having to do that additional paperwork is not something that they always want to do. So I always ask my clients, is your doctor supportive of you getting disability? Because that's something that we need to know. Because if your doctor's not supportive of you getting disability, it's going to be in your paperwork, in your medical evidence. So that's something that you want to know beforehand, before you start asking the doctors to write medical opinions for you. You want to know, do they feel like your client is disabled, or if your client is not disabled? But thank you for that question, Tiffany. I think I was saying that Social Security is also not a partial disability program. Some people want to know, like, again, you could have been injured at work and your doctor gave you a 20% disability rating to your back or something of that nature, and people want to apply for Social Security disability. But Social Security is not that type of program. It is a total 100% disability that you have to not be able to work at all, or at that point, your medical condition does not allow you to work. So the disability process is not too intimidating. It's just you first have to start the process with doing an initial application. A lot of times, most of my clients have already done that part. They've already filed their initial application, and that can be done online at ssa.gov. It's usually just asking you a lot of background information. And I'll go over some of those questions that they do ask, or it can be done over the telephone. It can also be done by appointment at your local Social Security office. Right now, they're limiting individuals that come in because of the pandemic. But if you are applying for Social Security disability and you are doing that initial application, the information I advise anyone to make sure, even as a representative, if you're doing your client's initial application, cases can be won at the initial application process. The percentage is lower, but it can be done. I've done it before. My legal assistant has done it before. My paralegal has done it before. So what you need is your birth certificate, proof of citizenship. You don't have to be a citizen, but if you are a citizen of the United States, you have to have that proof of citizenship, which is just your birth certificate. If you are from the military or you've served in the military, and I apologize, Happy Veterans Day. I don't know if you say Happy Veterans Day, but I want to thank, if there's any veterans out there, thank you for your service. We definitely appreciate you fighting for our freedom and giving us the ability to be here tonight and do what we're doing currently. So I appreciate that, and I'm sorry that I overlooked it.
Thank you
But
for that.
sure, sure. If you have served in the military, I I do represent individuals who may have or may be receiving benefits from the VA. And I always tell them, please give me the information to show me what your rating is and what the VA's rationale was for giving you that rating. Certain situations, Social Security, if a veteran is 100% disabled, Social Security may expedite their claim based on the VA's rationale. So I always advise those clients to make sure that they bring me their VA paperwork so that we can get this process through quickly and they can get the benefits that they need. Medical evidence. If you already, as a representative, or if you're doing this on your own, if you already have the medical records in your possession, that is extremely helpful. Now, Social Security Administration will have you sign a form and they will request your medical records, but they will do it on their own time. So if you can go ahead and get that information and submit it along with your application, it helps them make a quicker decision, or it helps them to decide if they need to send you to one of their doctors for an evaluation. But basically, the application is just asking a lot of background information, gender, social security number, date of birth, previous marriages. They also do want to know about if there's any children that are under the age of 18 that may be in your home. They want to know about the date that you became disabled, what illnesses, conditions, injuries caused you to be disabled. So those are just a few things that is on the application, and of course your list of medications that you have, and if your medications cause you any side effects. For instance, a lot of the medications, narcotics, may cause drowsiness. So that's something that Social Security Administration needs to know, because if you cannot work, but Social Security Administration listings may say that you can do some type of machinery, then you can't operate machinery if you're under certain narcotics. So it's just important to have that information with you. So I'm not going to go too much into the whole process of how we represent individuals, because there's some more information that I want to cover. But just to let you know that there's a 5-step process that the judges use, that the disability examiners use, and as an attorney or representative, it's also a process that you will use, and it's just each steps that you will use to evaluate your client's case. And at each step, that client could possibly be proven to be disabled. If your client does not win at the initial application process, there is an appeal process, and that appeal process is the request for reconsideration. The reconsideration is actually a short form that the individual can complete, and I have a copy of what one of those forms look like. That is not it. Okay, I think it was on that same screen. So this is what is a request for reconsideration. It just asks for the name of the claimant, Social Security number, claim number, which is usually the same as the Social Security number. It asks, why is this case being appealed? And I usually just put a simple statement in there, just that he was denied disability. I do not agree with the determination, and my reasons why, because my client is disabled and unable to perform substantial gainful activity. I always want a formal conference. I like for the judges to be able to see my clients, and then this is just information, contact information. So with that, this form is submitted, and then you will also do what is called a disability report. If your client is denied at the request for reconsideration stage, then you can do a request for hearing by an administrative law judge. And this form is very similar to the form for reconsideration as well. Usually you will always have additional evidence to submit. And again, I do wish to appear at a hearing. Okay, so we've talked about disability advocacy and we talked about Social Security disability and what it is. So what is the connection between Social Security disability and the social worker? So with Social Security disability, there's two types of programs. There's two categories. We have the Social Security disability insurance benefits, and we have supplemental security income. And that is, you probably heard it as SSI. And the difference between those two programs is the Social Security disability insurance program is based on the workers earning sufficient credits during their work history. So a worker earns 4 credits per year, and you need a total of 40 credits to be eligible. So what we do is that you will earn, it's 4 credits per year, so you earn 1 each quarter. So the way that you know that you are actually paying into the system, if you look at your pay stub, you will see OASID, which is old age survivors disability insurance, or FICA, which is FICA. I know people have heard of FICA or have seen FICA, but that is a way that you know that you're earning the credits that you need for disability. And so that's what SSDI is for. Now, SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is a need-based program. That's for individuals who do not have enough credits in the system, or they have no credits at all in the system, but they've become disabled and they cannot work, but they still need assistance. So the Social Security Disability Insurance Program started in 1954, but the Social Security the Social Security Act was enacted in 1935. But that first act only included retired workers. It wasn't until 1954 that they started the disability program. So this is where the social worker comes in. So the social, am I sharing? Thank you. But it's no problem that you were reading along with it. So, so this is where the role of the social worker came in. So prior to the passage of the Social Security Administration, Social Security Act, there were business people, politicians, social workers, other individuals, medical professionals, and other individuals in the community trying to figure out, how do we handle social insurance? How do we help individuals who may be out of work, who may have become injured, who may have an illness or medical condition that prevent them from working? How do we handle that situation? We don't want to take care of individuals who are not trying to take care of themselves, but we also don't want individuals who just hit hard times not to be able to take care of their family. So the social worker at that time in the early 1900s was considered a charity worker, because the work that they were doing was volunteer work. So they would go to visit the families to see the different conditions, and they will report to the different charity organizations, the different churches, the communities, the different nonprofits and different agencies, and let them know the condition of the family. Social workers, from my understanding, weren't really opponents to the social insurance, but they also are not strong supporters of it as well. They believe that the deserving should get what they're needed, but it's also the individual and family's responsibility to take care of their own. They didn't want government to be responsible for having to take care of families. And they also did not want to have gratuitous services or benefits given to people who may not necessarily deserve it. So it was the charity organizations, the community churches that will take care and be responsible for these individuals' welfare. But as the Great Depression during that time, I think 1929 to 1933, the number of individuals without jobs grew substantially. And so society started to see a need for a more structured system, as opposed to charity organizations or individuals being able to give at their whim or when they're able to. They needed a more structured system to take care of the people. So the charity worker who used to serve as a volunteer for those impoverished communities slowly started to become more professionalized. And they started to establish social work programs and social work schools and more social work departments to actually help build a more stable, more structured, and to implement some of the programs that the government was able to implement for their citizens. Currently, as we know, social workers still play a major part in Social Security disability, even though they may not be acting as an advocate. In my practice, I deal with social workers, mental health providers on a regular basis. A lot of my clients, probably the majority of my clients, have physical limitations, but they also have mental impairments as well. They're usually diagnosed with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorders, and there's just a list of other things that they're dealing with. So they're receiving mental health therapy. And I always encourage, especially my individuals under the age of 50, if you're dealing with those situations, you absolutely need to have some type of therapy or some type of counseling that you're getting. And so that you can show that information to Social Security Disability Administrative Law Judge. And so they play an integral part in my representation of my clients. And on a personal note, my sister serves as a school social worker. And just from hearing from her experiences, she talks about the resources that they have to find for their different students who may be suffering financially, be it a parent that is unable to work, or a student that is homeless, or a student who has learning disabilities. Those students may actually qualify for Social Security disability either on their own if they suffer with disabilities, or they're able to receive benefits under their parents if their parents are disabled. So even though a social worker may not be acting as a Social Security disability advocacy, they still have some role in the Social Security disability process. So I stated when I was answering one of the questions about the purpose of the company, that one thing, I'm sorry, there is one thing that I did want to share with you all. I told you that I had these memes that I have to share since I found it. I always thought that this one was quite interesting. And I know that people can, I'm sure, relate with this. Let's see. Not him again. Okay, let me see. So sometimes we're always, we sometimes have experience with individuals that we think may not be entitled to disability payments, or we feel like may not even be disabled. But we have our own, I guess, scale of trying to determine if somebody is deserving. And these are individuals that you think are deserving. Usually they're homeless, or looking for, or about to lose their home, or they're on the street and they're suffering from mental health limitations or some type of physical impairment. And so we understand when these individuals need help, and we don't mind helping these individuals. And then we have, and I'm sure that some people may be able to relate to this individual. He has 4 kids by 4 different mothers, refuses to work, gets high on meth before a social worker visit, and gets approved for Social Security for mental health disorder. I hear it all the time from my clients when I'm representing someone. They will say to me, if we have to go to a Social Security hearing, and it may have taken longer than a year to get their benefits, and they will always say to me, well, I have my brother-in-law and there's nothing wrong with him, and he easily got Social Security disability on his first try. So I don't understand why it's taken me so long to get Social Security disability. Well, what I have learned in my practice of Social Security disability is that now I can choose to represent the clients that I want to represent, but that does not mean that somebody is not entitled to disability. I don't know everybody's story. You cannot look at an individual and say that that individual is disabled or that individual is not disabled. Social Security goes to a very strenuous process to determine if somebody truly has a disability or not. Do they get it wrong sometimes? Absolutely, they get it wrong sometimes. But a lot of times they do get it right. So I try not to get into labeling anyone to determine if they are deserving of Social Security benefits or not deserving of Social Security disability benefits. Really, I kind of look at it as a business decision, because with my cases, I know if I win the case, then that is how I earn my income. So I'm going to take the strongest disability cases. But also, if I see someone who has medical limitations, but they just need to get the right medical treatment and things of that nature, then I would definitely facilitate that treatment for them so that they're able to get the disability benefits that they need. So as I stated, the purpose of my company, the Disability Teacher, is just to bring awareness of the need for representation of hardworking American citizens or who are disabled, and to promote disability advocacy as a career choice. The company's second objective is to provide training and education to those individuals who decided a career as a disability advocate is the right career path for them. I think I already explained to you my reason for becoming a Social Security disability attorney. It was after seeing my mom go through what she did with receiving Social Security disability, and I just became interested in that entire process and been able to help individuals with that. And I have to say, one of the most gratifying things that I do get out of this representation is having that client, and I've had this happen before. It was a gentleman, he was in his mid-50s, and he was living in a home that was owned by his family, previously owned by his mother, and he was about to lose it. And after we were able to get disability benefits for him, he called me. He called me and he said, "I thank you so much for what you did." He said, "I was able to sleep for the first time in years because I knew that I had the benefits that I needed, and I'll be able to take care and keep the home that my parents had built for me." So you get those situations where you know that you made a difference in someone's life. And I know that with most of us in this type of area of law or dealing with social work or things of that nature, that we are trying to make a better life for a client. We're trying to help someone who may be down on their luck or just hit, a hard time. So we're just trying to help them out and let them know that they can hold on to things that they have worked hard for, that they can keep their family together, that they can keep their home, that they can get medical care that they need. Because with Social Security disability, you're also going to be receiving Medicare, or sometimes you're also going to be receiving Medicaid as well. So not only are you receiving that monetary income, you're also receiving medical treatment as well. So even though I joked about having gone to law school and spent this time and money in doing an area of law where I didn't even have to do all of that, my purpose of going to law school was because I did want to help people. I wanted a career that was challenging, but I also wanted, at the end of the day, to know that I had made a difference. And with doing Social Security disability, I can say that that's definitely something that is satisfied with my representation of my clients. It's not just about clients coming back and showing gratitude for what you did, but just knowing that you worked your hardest and you use the knowledge that you have to just apply it and be able to say, I don't know how the examiner missed it when they looked at their records, but according to this listing right here, this client is entitled to disability. And to be able to put that in a brief and submit it to a judge, and then the judge looks at it and agrees that, yeah, this client is entitled to disability and should have gotten it at least a year or so ago. It's just a very fulfilling job that I have, and I want to find other individuals who share that that need and that want to help individuals, and better, you become a better person, and also you help those people to become better as well. So thank you for your time. I don't have anything else, but I'm definitely open for questions. Let me see if I have one more thing that I wanted to share. I think I do. Well, that was the career path with what's next. I do have a timeline if anybody's interested, just about Social Security and how they came from starting with just retirement workers and how we end up with the program that we have now. I can definitely share that with you if anybody's interested in that. But as well, I just want to share this quote. It says, "We have the opportunity to really shape how someone's current situation is and how their future looks. And that's a pretty amazing power." And this is Teresa Hauk, Child Advocacy Center Supervisor. And I totally agree and with her sentiment on that. And I hope that you do as well. Are there any questions?
So I just wanted to ask, so this sounds so fascinating and interesting, and it sounds still a little overwhelming and daunting to move forward. So if there was like one first step that we could take to just explore this, what would that one first step be?
And I agree. And it can be daunting. And that was my fear of, maybe someone wouldn't want to pursue it because they say, oh, it just seems like it's a lot. That first step, if you're truly interested in disability advocacy, is, well, I would say contact me. Contact me just to get information about the training that you will need. And Social Security, they offer certification. I think it's a yearly process. And so prior to doing that, I probably would just advise you to do just a little research about the process. It's just like any, I would say most jobs. It takes time to go through the training process. But although I've been doing it for 20 years, after several cases, I understood. But it's just a matter of being familiar with the guidelines and the listings. And once you're familiar with those listings and those guidelines for Social Security, it's just a matter of kind of filling in, I don't want to say the blanks, but kind of filling in the blanks. So I would say just contact me because I can kind of point you in the correct direction of where you want to go if you're interested in learning more about becoming a disability advocate.
So how would you like that? I'm going to put it in the chat because I have a couple of people asking too about sharing your contact information. Would you like it the email that you and I have exchanged, or the info@disability teacher, or
info@disability teacher will be the best email so that I don't get it confused with other emails that I'm getting.
Absolutely. And then can you also share the application process on the SSIA website?
I think that came from Mr. Valentine.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's see, I'm looking for that now.
There's a couple of us that are therapists on the call too. So if we felt like a client would be needing of these services, would it be appropriate to refer to you if it wasn't something that we were ready to take on ourselves, or?
Yeah, sure.
No? Okay.
Absolutely. That will be fine if you will refer them to me. I am trying to share the information regarding the process. So let me see. Mhm. I think I'm pushing it to think that I have become a professional at this so quickly. Let's see if I can produce what I'm looking for, though. I think this may be it. So, Mr. Valentine, this is the information that I was talking about, but if you would like for me to email it to you, I can absolutely email you a copy of the information regarding the initial application process.
Is there anybody else with any questions or thoughts, or if it was helpful, or even if you want to say what you'd like to hear in the future from the CEU training?
Well, I definitely, if you don't have any questions, I just appreciate you all allowing me to share this with you all. I do know that it's a lot of information, especially for individuals who may not be familiar with Social Security disability. It seems like, a great deal of information, but I appreciate you being willing to listen to it. And I hope that you did learn from it as well. There's more information to provide, but this is what is needed in most situations. Of course, the more cases that you start to handle, you learn a little more and you learn to finesse it a little differently. But that's something that you'll learn down the road. When I first started doing these Social Security disability cases, like I said, I was working for another law firm, and the attorney that I was working for had no experience doing Social Security disability. I've gone to hearings before with very limited information and just not knowing that my client was disabled. And I knew that I could get my client to testify to his limitations, to his capacity, his activities of daily living. I knew that I could get him to testify to that. And then the medical records just corroborated with what his statements were. And I was able to win cases that way. But the more and more experience that I got, I've been able to get disability benefits earlier for my clients instead of having to wait to go to an administrative hearing, or just doing it based on a brief or something of that nature. So you just learn more with it, the more and more that you practice it as well.
Excellent. You've got some great comments in there, and it's been really nice and different to have you present a different sort of topic. And I think that we are very, as social workers, very connected to that social paperwork aspect of it. And so it may not be our favorite. When you hear about the lucrative piece of it, it's something that is definitely for us to consider. So
Right.
we appreciate hearing from you.
Sure.
Yeah. If there's no other questions, we can go ahead and end this. What you will expect is that you'll be getting an email from Mr. Clayton Mack. Mr. Mack, I think it'll come from him, but it'll be a brief survey to fill out about this training. And then if you're interested in the certificate, that'll also come. If you don't receive that by Monday, please feel free to reach out to me and request that. Okay. But until then, I think you'll stay on just for a little bit in case anybody has some individual questions for you. But thank you very much.
I will stick around.
And thank you, Sabrina. I love your content.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong.
Thank you.
It's always good to connect with you guys.
Yes. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad I got a chance to be here and hear my friend in action.
Thank you so much, Sabrina.
Thank you, Saprina. And look, I'll be calling you because I want to talk about that training.
I know you will.
Oh, Miss Armstrong,
Yeah.
I actually do have somebody else that you might be interested in. If you saw my little note in the chat,
I sure did. I'm copying it and pasting it
yes,
somewhere.
I actually just connected with her earlier this week. But the Family Law Clinic is a resource that we use at DSS for our clients who have legal issues involving, custody, child support, and domestic violence. And she had expressed that she was interested in doing something for the social work department. She said she had tried to work out something before earlier, and it kind of fell through. So I said, well, they have this new CEU program, and I have a former professor that is setting these things up. So she expressed interest in connecting with you. So I'm going to get you her email address and contact information.
Thank
And she said she would love to do something for spring if you're going to do a spring CEU.
That sounds great. Yeah. And that is the one plus of the virtual is that we could even do, it would be great to do one a month if we can, or one every other
That
or
would be
something.
fantastic.
Yeah. I know I've got mine's coming up due, my licensure renewal. I'm in some of those CEUs right now, but that's great. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. I will try to get that to you like by the end of the week. I have to go into my work email to get her contact information because I don't have it in my personal email. So I'm logged out for the evening, but I'll check in tomorrow and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Thank
Goodbye,
you.
Frank.
Sabrina, you did an awesome job. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I don't know what Latanya and Tiffany are doing.
Do you know that? You want me to get off? Do you guys want to have a conversation?
She heard me. No,
Awesome.
I'm good. We can go ahead and log out.
Okay. Thank you so much. And it was really wonderful to actually sort of see you face to
I
face.
know it. I know it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll I don't know. It would be great to do some more collaborating too. So
Yeah, I have to find. Yeah, absolutely. Let me know what you need. And thank you for sending the information over about, from the other attorney.
yeah, it's kind of
It really gave me some ideas.
fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
You too. You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to stop the recording. That's what I need to do.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's okay. You can hang out. You can go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Wait. How do I cancel that? Stop. Do you want to stop the recording?